The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, in Alameda. You're flying high over that particular zone, and I'm Ralph Tycho of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I have an old buddy, fellow podcaster, musician, Renaissance man, Bernie Rose. How are you?
Very good, very good. How's everything?
Oh, everything's pretty good. We have from time to time on this very show talked about things other than sports. And I just want to get a little impression from of what's going on in this world from someone who spent his life on basically the East Coast. I think he went right from New York to Florida. Am I correct?
Pretty much. I spent a few months out on the West Coast.
And I grew up in New York, as did you, in Jackson Heights, and I lived my life in California. And I just want to know if on the East Coast there is as much outrage to what's happening to our country in terms of Trump, the whole political scene, but more importantly, the breakdown of our society in terms of all these people coming out who have been abused, some not women, some men, abused by people who are in power.
Right.
And you spent your life in the music industry, in and around music. You're an accomplished keyboard rock and roller. And I spent my life pretty much as a comedian with exposure to powerful people in comedy, making decisions and holding over people's lives. But this transcends just music and comedy. It's all facets of society, all institutions, the church, big business, all of it. And how do people in South Florida see this crumbling of our society? Or am I just so out of touch on the West Coast that it's just commonplace, and I have no reason to be shocked?
Well, I think there's a lot of it here. It's been a long time since I've been out in California. A shame, really. I've been out once since 1971. No, 72. And I love California, so it's amazing to me that that's how it's gone down. But in South Florida, it's such a mixed bag. There's a lot of outrage, but I also find there's a lot of, I don't know, compliance, or maybe that's not the right word, with what's going on.
Apathy.
To some degree. I mean, South Florida's a huge mixed bag, and over the years I've just sort of gotten stuck in, maybe we all do, in our own little niche, or niche, if you will. And basically, there's plenty of pockets of South Florida that would go gung-ho over Trump and all this nonsense, and can't see, the forest for the trees, or what have you. I mean, they're spying into the lies and just don't even want to look past it. Outrage, there's plenty of outrage. There's a liberal, faction as well. And it's such a mixed bag that I don't know how anything gets done anymore. Anyway. Don't you get that feeling?
It's both parties. It's not.
Yes.
It isn't one or the other, and it isn't a part. Trump's not. You can't consider Trump to be a Republican. I don't think there's a Republican alive that a true Republican that really is proud that he represents the party. What scares me is that what happens if he's impeached, dies, this, that, or the other thing. Pence is a very, very scary human being.
He is.
He's got more right-wing tendency than does Trump in terms of blurring the line between church and state, which we need to keep really clear. And
but that's not happening, and it seems to be getting worse and worse.
Right.
It's starting, when you go back to the 80s and the Reagan GOP cozying up with the moral majority, and it's just gotten worse and worse, if you ask me. And culminating.
The one thing Trump did is that he gave churches, synagogues, mosques permission basically to politicize from the pulpit. You can't lose your 501c3 for that anymore.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
that separation of the church and state is one of the first, if not the most important, that we have.
Right.
And the free press, which he doesn't want either. The free press is the basic, of any democratic society. You have to have a free press.
Right. And he's trying to temper that. He also, something came down this week that really depressed me, was the hold on the internet process that he's imposing, basically to make it a pay thing. If you have money, you can afford servers that will it will give everybody the information they need and have access to the webs. So it's not going to be free anymore. It's going to be the rich can see it, the people, and the poor can't. So it gets back to information being hidden.
They're trying to control the internet and the web and what you see and who can peddle to whom, if you will.
Right. So, what I'm looking for, now that we put everything into perspective, I want to go back to our old Jackson Heights roots.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of people thinking all the time. That's the one thing. Am I right? With the schoolyard and everybody was thinking. Brains were going 1,000,000 miles an hour. That's how I remember growing up. So let's make this a little miniature think tank. What can be done to turn all this around? What do you think is the first thing that I'm just trying to learn, trying to get.
What can be done to turn everything around?
Yeah,
you're asking
slowly
me.
but surely, perhaps. But do we need a third party system?
I have been an advocate for that for many years, totally. But it's just been so almost impossible to get anything near there. But I think that's a great idea, and I would imagine you do.
I do, and I want you to put into words, because it's hard for me to articulate it, because both parties are so screwed up. I'm so pissed at the Democratic Party, what with Bernie Sanders being screwed out as a nomination by
Absolutely.
DNC, and all those emails that came out confirming it afterwards did nothing to raise Democrats' attention to the fact that things need changing in the upper echelon of it all. Millionaires like the Clintons and the Bushes and the Trumps and multimillionaires are running our country in a hierarchy, whatever you want to call it. We're just peasants. We're feudal. The middle class has become feudal, and this tax abomination that's going through is really the first step. If he gets this through, with all the allegations against him coming up with Russia, if he's still powerful enough to get this through, now I'm really scared. So, why is it that you think we need a third-party system as a checks and balance? Is that how you look at it too?
Well, you need something to keep them in checks and balance. Where is the outrage? I just don't see in so many places the outrage that brought the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement of the 60s and 70s. I mean, and things are pretty fucked up, if I can use that terminology. And
pretty mild at this point.
Yeah, I just don't see the outrage, and I don't see the involvement, and I don't know if that's what it takes.
Well,
it's certainly
always come. Protests has always come from the colleges and the young people.
Exactly.
And I'm not seeing that. I'm not hearing that from campuses. Even the protests here in Berkeley are marred. It's a different world. There's violence. I mean, first, before anything else, there's clashes and violence. And, it's just scary shit. Putting it that way.
Well, it is. And the problem is, the economy is so, set up in such a way where if you're not a true professional, so many people are working so many hours and so many jobs, or the young people, they don't, the younger people that don't even see it, or they're blind to it because things are maybe being paid for them to go to school and things like that. So the outrage isn't there, or the time isn't there, and people have to tend to their own business, and they fall out of keeping up with events or subscribing to anything that tells them what's going on. And then the problem with that is so much of that is so biased, and each side just centers on what they watch. They get nothing else from anywhere else, and it brings up that whole
I know you're
fake news
even on
thing.
Facebook, which we both subscribe to. I don't have any Trump friends, and Trump friends, Trump people don't have people of my like as friends. It's become a matter of preaching to the choir.
Yes.
Where there's no way that both sides can come together in a good, healthy debate. That's the way I see it. We are so polarized that it's scary.
Well, I've got a few through, I guess, the music community down here. And I thank you for what you said. I don't know how accomplished I am, but, at least within a small...
Well, I know how accomplished you are.
In a small group down here, at least people know who I am. But there is
plug
some lively debate.
Bernie, and plug your group. This is podcast is Selfless Self-Promotion. So,
well, that's very nice. Right now, I got hooked up with an Eric Clapton tribute group, which is actually a lot of fun, called Forever Eric. And I was always a big fan. And, from the early days in Cream and after, and Derek.
Yeah, he's been in 4 or 5 really major groups. Cream was terrific. Cream was vintage. Incredible. When I could remember sitting in the barracks and listening in the Air Force in 66, 67, listening to Cream. Terrific.
That was when it was happening. 6, 7, and 8. I mean, it was unbelievable. And it's a lot of fun. And Derek and the Dominoes album, for me, Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs.
Yes.
Is just one of the greatest. It's a true.
You're playing music that has been going through your head for 50 years.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice.
Not play.
You guys add your own touch to it.
What was that now?
Do you guys add your own?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just your own personalities, your own style to it. You don't just totally copy what,
No, we don't. But the guy that put this band together, he kind of likes to stick to it. So there is a lot of that, but we definitely add and do things that sort of give it our own flavor.
Good. I'm just curious, has he ever seen you perform, or has he heard your tapes or whatever?
No.
Okay.
No, that's interesting. There's a guy down here that does a Billy Joel thing. Is really incredible. And Billy does know about him, and they have met, and he's doing pretty good with his act. He's had it together longer than, I just joined this one really just a few months ago. It's only been 7 months or so. But, I've had a lot of fun since I started playing again, like 13 or so.
Well, you inspired me to write a kind of a joke. I wrote that someone is starting a Sha Na Na cover band.
I saw that. I thought that was great.
No, you knew that was in your honor, right?
Yeah, I got a great kick out of that.
All right. So, by the way, congratulations on your Dodgers winning a pennant for the first time in 29 years. How about that?
That was exciting, yes. It was a long overdue, right?
It was a season of two distinct streaks for them. I think they won like 12 in a row, 14 in a row early on, and then lost like 12 in a row, 14 and it might have been more. And then they steadied the course and
right.
Did the job. What do you think was responsible for steadying the course? Team goes up, team goes down, and was it Dave Roberts?
Yeah, it was. It was the way, although I had some problems with him and how he handled the team in the World Series, but he's been a great manager for them, and you can't take that away. I think his steadying hand and sticking with the core, you knew it had to settle down. It's amazing that losing streak went on for as long as it did. It was something like 14, 15 in a row, and I don't know, 17 out of 18. I don't know how bad something along those lines. But when it couldn't last. With Kershaw was back, Hill was pitching really well, Maeda was pitching well, Turner and the rookie of the year, Bellinger.
Oh yeah, the first baseman from Sacramento.
Some of these guys were, Seager got hurt a little bit towards the end of the year. But, I mean, they had so much going on that it had to settle down, and he knew that. He recognized that. And stayed with it, and it did. It turned around, and everybody was freaking out that because Arizona sort of the last three series, or certainly the last two series they played, just totally dominated them. But then they went in and they took care of them 1, 2, 3 in the playoffs like it was nothing. Robert's belief in them kept them, steadied them out, and got them ready for the playoffs. I was pretty sure they were going to beat.
They did take it to 7 games in one of the most exciting World Series that I've ever seen.
Right.
It was win, lose, or draw. It was a great series, and they.
Oh, it's fantastic.
They took 7 games.
Right.
Altuve was too much. He was.
He was incredible.
Not only played little ball and big ball.
Oh yeah.
His enthusiasm was terrific. I think he may change the tide of everybody thinking the only way to win is through the home run. Not that he doesn't hit his share, for sure, but that team, and led by him, they get the runner over, they make the small things happen, and they don't have to sit around and wait for the home run, and I give them a lot of credit. What I'd like to know, Bernie, is a Dodger insider. You know as much about the Dodgers as anybody I know. What happened to Adrian Gonzalez?
Yeah, well, that was terrible. You know, if he still had it together, with him at first, they could have put Bellinger in left. It probably would have made a huge difference. He was broken down. He was never healthy from the end of last year. They didn't take care of that correctly. He was not ready to start the season.
Right.
And it just got worse. And he just never corrected it. Then they rushed him back, and, you know, he finally hit a home run. People thought maybe he was back, but he wasn't. Either he just got old really fast, or they just got bad advice on how to treat his back and some of the other problems, I guess, that he had with his health. You know,
dramatic drop-off. That's very sad, because not just for the Dodgers, for the kid. He's young. I don't think he's 30 yet. Am I?
No, he is. Gonzo? Oh yeah. Yeah. He's probably 34 or 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But
right. How about getting Kemp back? Do you think that's temporary? Do you think that it's just moving of salaries?
Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah, it looks like that. I read a few things, and Peter, your good friend, seems to think that's what it is, and because I didn't even hear about it, and Mert texted me, and I was glad to see the people that they got rid of leave, except for Culberson. He played great in the World Series. But, you know, McCarthy and Kazmir had to go. And Gonzo, unfortunately, now that Bellinger's the first baseman, what are they going to do with him?
Right.
And the luxury tax is killing him. So they had to dump his salary and Kazmir's and McCarthy's so they can get under the luxury tax.
Right. Well, all things considered, the Dodgers did an awful lot to rebound, and you got to give the credit to Magic. You know, it all starts at the top.
Yeah. They did a good job. You know, you have to say there was a lot of questioning going on about a lot of things, about who to get rid of, who to keep. Mm-hmm. They kept Puig. They could have gotten rid of him, and he had a pretty good season.
Right, and he looks. I mean, he's a 5'2" player when it just comes to talent, and
absolutely.
So he's putting it together in a manner where he's showing some humanity. The series got to put him in a light of a jovial guy, and I credit Dave Roberts for that one too. Somebody had to sit down with him. He matured terrifically over the course of the year.
Without a doubt. But, Bellinger was the biggest thing. They brought him up on, April 25th or whatever it was, and he just went wild. And the team just took off because they was something like 12 and 13 or 12 and 11 when they brought him up.
Yep.
And then they had like a historic streak. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Right.
And Gonzo was out, and Kershaw gets hurt, and they win 43 out of 50 games, and the streak was even longer than that, really. I mean, it was incredible, but no one had done that in like 100 years.
Yeah, they compare Kershaw to Koufax. Are they now in a position where you could almost compare Koufax to Kershaw? He's putting up some career numbers that are definitely Hall of Fame.
Oh, I think he's in already. If he didn't pitch again, hopefully that won't be the case. Only because he's done enough. Like Sandy retired at 30, so there was going to be any 300 wins or any 3,000 strikeouts for him.
Right.
Because he was too
he had
young.
to make it on those 5-6 years where he was just incredibly dominant.
So dominant, right.
Yes.
And there's never been anything like that. The only thing is he should have started him in Game 7. He should have, because he might have just, and you saw what he did when you brought him in the third or fourth, whenever it was, or was it the second? They brought him right in, and they couldn't touch him. I know he had a not such a great start in Houston, but in Game 1 in L.A., they couldn't touch him. And he should have, look, they started Koufax on 2 days rest against the Twins in Game 7 in 1965, and he shut him out.
Right.
He went 9 complete on 2 days rest. Maybe that's why he had to retire at 30.
I was going to say that's why his elbow fell off. But you took the good with the bad.
Right, but as it stands, this could have been his Sandy Koufax moment, winning Game 7 at home, or at least going 5, and setting the tone. They got so far behind so bad, and they just got back into that same rut that they used to find themselves in. Not so much this year, but certainly during the bad little streak they had at the end of August and September. But it is what it is. They had a great year. I would agree with that.
Let me call your attention to something on YouTube that you may or may not have seen. Mm-hmm. It is Vin Scully calling the last inning of Sandy's perfect game. And
I've heard that. Absolutely.
That is such a classic that you got to go back to it every now and again just to get a taste of Vin Scully. How he'll be missed.
Without a doubt. He already is.
Already is. And, what was sad was that the last year that he was broadcasting, that 80% of his audience didn't get to hear him because of the dispute between the cable company and the Dodgers.
I don't know why they can't get that worked out.
I don't know either. You would think in the spirit of helping both sides that something could be done. And that's the kind of compromise that seems obvious in life. Life's about compromise. So,
but when you get into these political things, I know you left New York way before I did, a long time ago. Although I did leave for a short time when I was 21, and went out to the San Francisco area. As a matter of fact, I don't know that you remember that, but it only turned out to last a few months. And I went down to Arizona for a month or so and back to New York.
Visit. I think it coincided with Mertz, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we visited in 1971. Absolutely.
Right.
We saw you in Sacramento. But the following year, I was out there on my own for a few months. But I don't think I got out to see you that year.
I don't think you did.
I didn't have a whole lot of funds I was working with. And I went out there to see what the music scene was like. Because in New York, everything was top 40, and I wanted to play like original music. But I didn't have enough cash. It never really worked out too well. So, but I don't want to get into that. But
well, that's kind of put a damper on my 50-year experience in California too. Having enough cash.
There you go.
That's the standard.
But when you left so early, there was no cable TV back then. Now, in the early 70s, I was just trying to make a political point, which is probably where this whole Dodger broadcasting thing got. I mean, when I left New York in 1985, Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Staten Island were still not wired for cable. And Manhattan and Westchester and New Jersey and Nassau and Suffolk had it for 10 to 15 years. Let's say 71, 72 was when it really started to, where you could go see the home games for the Knicks and the Rangers and things like that had never been before. And we used to go down for the playoffs to some bars in Manhattan to watch the hockey games.
PTV, am I right?
Right.
That was the expression, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And they had it in Manhattan and in New Jersey, but the thing was, it took damn near 20 years to get the outer boroughs wired when every other state had it everywhere.
Right.
And so it was just all this political infighting, and the Dodger thing has to be somewhat, similar to that, I would imagine. They just can't get it worked out.
Well, and who always suffers for that? It's the fans.
The fans, absolutely.
Right. When they finally get it worked out, it'll always mean a price hike for the fans. The compromise will come when both sides make more money and the fans pay.
I guess.
Paying for it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Barn. We've cured the world's problems a little bit. We've at least identified them, and I get to talk to a kindred spirit. I enjoy that quite a bit, Bern.
Yeah, it's good to talk with you. Nice to hear your voice.
Yeah.
And
nice to hear yours. Join us on the Mets show every now and again. We have a Mets-Yankees show on Monday night that your bro is on. And
right.
You're always welcome to pop in there. I know you're a steady regular, let's put it that way, on the Dodger show, Tale of Two Cities, with
right.
Peter Trunk and Ronnie Rabinovitz. So you're always welcome on Monday nights, same number as you have now. Not tonight, but we're going to do it later on in the week. But call in at 8, and we'd love to hear your voice anytime.
I'd love to do it. That sounds like a plan.
Beautiful. Or here's another plan for you. On Tuesday nights, we do a vintage sports show, talking vintage sports, not necessarily baseball, mostly basketball, hockey, a little baseball, because Hal Bach of the Associated Press is the host, and I don't know if you know that he worked with your uncle for many, many years.
Yeah, I knew the name. Mm-hmm.
He was the head baseball writer for like 43 years at the Associated Press, and he has a lot of stories to tell about Murray. And I don't know if you know, if it weren't for Murray and your bro and the tickets and Marty and I being best friends and stuff, I never would have had this passion for ball. So I have a lot to that, and I don't know what the hell I ever would have gotten interested in. So I thank you guys for everything. Let's put it that way.
Oh, well, that was great, wasn't it? Wasn't it great to go see those Nick and Ranger games with those great seats?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for those of you out there, it was a time when the teams would really cultivate the press by giving them tickets. It was just pure and simple. And not just that, the Titans, or early Titans, and these were just courtside too, a couple of rows up, courtside seats, great games, and it was terrific. Murray Rose was a great boxing sports writer for the Associated Press, but he also covered the Olympics year after year.
Absolutely. He's out there in Sapporo, Japan, I believe, that time for the Winter Olympics. And he became the head of the sports department eventually. Department. You remember Sport World and Pro Sports magazines?
Right. There's one that he edited that I could walk in the other room and get my finger on, that it is one of the greatest periodicals I've ever seen. It was, and you may remember it, it was the All-Star edition. He and his fellow editors, and it was one or two guys that put it together with Murray, and he had every All-Star game chronicalized with the box scores, the stars, and it was like from 35 to, I think the magazine came out in maybe 66 or 64, something around that time. And I still have it. It's a tremendous work. He had a great career, and he always had a smile on his face, much like your dad. Very positive. I'll take the time to tell this quick story again, Bernie, because in April of 64, when they opened Shea Stadium, Mert and I played hooky from Newtown to go see a bunch of our friends to go see the first game at Shea Stadium with the Mets. And everybody's parents knew about it except my mother, who would have never given me permission to go because I was such a horrible student, and to take a day off that would have been horrible. So, but I go anyway. And of course. So, and I didn't play hooky very often. It was given everything, but this is one of those days. I'm there. So that day, my mother is taking her shopping cart to Safeway or whatever it was called at that time, and runs into your dad, who knew about us going to the game. And
a great story.
Dad works swing shift, so he's puttering around the neighborhood like my mother was. It's a beautiful spring day. And my dad, and your dad goes to my mother, goes, "Kids have a nice day for a ball game, huh?" And my mother goes, "What?" So I come home from the ball game, come home from school. How was school today? It was great. Whack. she wailed me into left field. She had, it was just a fluid swing that got me upside the head, not for going to the game, for lying. If I'd have gone home and said, I went to the game, and, the old adage, it's much easier to ask for permission, for forgiveness than it is permission.
Right.
That would
That's
have
a
worked.
great story. Every time you tell it, I love it. One quick note about the Sports World magazine and the Pro Sports magazine. I remember one time saying to my Uncle Murray, I said, I go out and get the magazine, the first thing I want to do is read yours and Jack Hand's articles, because they were like running the department. And he looks at me and he goes, those are just the two under our own names. He goes, we write the whole magazine. It's just all using all different names. And it blew me away. I didn't even know.
Well, that they did that, yeah, they just put those guys' names on it.
So they were writing the whole magazine. And they were pretty good magazines back then. I think it was a monthly. But, they're long gone. But they were good magazines. And it was great. Great time.
Bear with me for 1 second. I'm in the room now, and I'm going to try to get out the magazine that I was referring to. Okay, it's a Sports World, right. And it was the pre-All-Star game issue.
I can't believe you have it. That's great.
I have it, and given it's been all these years, it's in pretty good shape, just that it's alive. And,
right.
So there you go. Let me look at the year, at the last year, and see. I think it was 1961. Holy
wow.
shit. Actually, it was in 1962, because it covers everything to 60 up to 61. So this was the pre-All-Star game issue of 1962. Sport World, and pictured. Listen to the guys who were pictured on the cover: Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Roger Maris, Warren Spahn, Frank Robinson, Rocky Colavito, Maury Wills, and Louis Aparicio.
Jeez.
Wow.
Pretty good roll call, huh?
And as I look to the right, just the first name, they list the players that they have articles on. I'm looking to the right. It says Frank Larry, the Alabama Tiger.
The Yankee Killer, yeah.
The Yankee Killer, too, but they have him, his nickname is the Alabama Tiger.
Right.
Nickname I'd never seen. He passed away earlier this week, did Frank Larry.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, and he was a Yankee Killer. You're absolutely right. He'd come in and kick their ass. And,
yeah, that's what they call them.
And those were some good, the Detroit teams of 60, 61 with Charlie Maxwell and K-Line and what have you. That was some good competition for the Yankees.
Yeah.
They won every year, it seemed, but they had other competitive teams in that league. The White Sox, Cleveland, Baltimore. It wasn't just walkthroughs. We'll talk more about that another time, Bernie. Thanks for coming on.
Sounds great.
Please join us Tuesdays, Halbach, talking vintage sports, or Mondays with your bro and Gene Hupmaker's on that show, Robert Denninger, and we talk New York City baseball on that one.
Great.
So love to have you be more a part of the network than you are already.
Thank you much. I appreciate it. I'll try to make some of those.
Beautiful. See you, Bern. Thanks again.
All right.
Anybody listening, if you enjoyed this offering or any of our offerings on the station, I would like you to, if you would, box up some lightly used children's books and take them to the Head Start program wherever you live. It makes a difference to have kids reading and getting school ready, and that's what we can do for the future.
That's nice.
I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, I'm going to make Bernie laugh. Go down to the Head Start program, steal their books, bring them home.
There you go.
I knew I would. I knew I'd make you laugh. Be well, my friend.
All right, you too.
Talk soon. Adios.
All right. Bye.
Adios, everybody.